Kia ora e te whānau. Welcome to my new mini-series, How to Survive and Thrive in a Hypothetical Dystopian Street Battle. In these videos, we'll be going over practical advice a hypothetical citizen might need in a riot situation or a general state of civil unrest. We'll be going over plenty of different topics, but I'll be keeping each video short and focused in an effort to make them easier to navigate. The first subject we're going to cover is one of the most common tactics employed by police in large-scale protests. It's called Kettling. This is a technique everyone should become familiar with, as it's used by police and military all over the planet. Also referred to as a box-in, pocket, or trap and detain by modern police and military, it's an evolution of a timeless military strategy used all over the planet. Most notoriously probably in World War II, in which the Germans called it the Kiel und Kessel tactic. Kettling is when a group of people are corralled into an enclosed area and held there, whether by physical barriers like pre-existing walls and terrain, temporary barriers like fences, or a wall of hypothetical state-sanctioned stormtroopers. Once inside the area designated as a kettle, the official law enforcement position is generally that protesters will be released in small groups to slowly diffuse and de-escalate the situation, like a valve releasing pressure from a kettle. But in practice, this rarely happens. Instead, we often see police slowly applying pressure and shrinking the kettled area to force an escalation or to enact mass arrest. While a group remains kettled, they can also be denied access to resources like water, bathrooms, and medical attention, which is why in many places, incidents of kettling have later been found to be unlawful. So it's worth knowing if there are any rulings on this in the area of your hypothetical protest before heading out. But unlawful or not, you'll probably find that most police forces aren't too scared of a fine or lawsuit down the track if it means they can put down a protest that threatens the status quo they're employed to maintain. However, in some areas, police are even required to allow protesters access to water, bathrooms, and medical aid upon request. And even though they'll most likely deny access to all of the above, you should always know your rights for any leverage that you can get. Being able to identify possible kettle points is crucial to avoiding them, which is why knowledge of the area is important. This is how small groups of local protesters have managed to hold out against overwhelming numbers from police forces and right-wing extremist groups all over the world. Things you should look out for include tunnels, bridges, and narrow streets, but a sufficiently resourced department could potentially deploy these strategies anywhere. So the best thing is to know your surroundings, and if your protest has any form of organized leadership, they need to communicate clearly and have multiple different routes and contingency plans. Keep in mind that police will sometimes set up a fake kettle in a suboptimal location in order to steer protesters away from it and into an ambush or strategically more advantageous position. A suboptimal kettle location could be anything from a busy intersection with plenty of street and pedestrian traffic to somewhere too close to a building or facility that could be a possible target for protesters. If you find yourself in a kettle, the best thing you can do is remain calm and coordinate with those around you. Most of the time, these situations are going to be a waiting game, and like any kind of siege, supplies are important. So you need to know if anyone around you has any special needs to be aware of. This could be anything from food, water, and sunblock to medical needs like insulin and Ventolin. Going back to World War II and the Kiel und Kessel, the name Kessel fever was given to the kind of intense psychological stress felt by the people trapped inside one of these maneuvers, which led to people not only escalating the violence against their captors, but sometimes turning on each other in desperation, which is why it's important to look out for each other and keep morale up in these situations. In a war zone, breaking a kettle is an extremely difficult task. But if you're unable to wait it out or are under heavy fire, the key to breaking these maneuvers is generally to search the perimeter of the kettle for weak points, whether it's from the encircling force being spread too thin, possibly because you've created a diversion somewhere else, or to exploit some kind of feature of the terrain to your advantage, which is obviously where local knowledge is important. So, if you can find a weak spot, you then need to focus all of your efforts in that single spot to break through and either escape or reopen and maintain a supply line. That is, if you don't have any additional forces to help you by flanking the encircling army from the outside. Now, hopefully you'll never have to actually use any of these tactics in a war zone, but many protests have been hamstrung because people weren't able to spot these traps until it was too late. So hopefully, now that you know what a kettle is and how to spot one, that won't be you, because you'll be keeping an eye out for yourself and for your comrades. Better living, everyone. This has been Tim from Conquest of Dread with How to Survive and Thrive in a Hypothetical Dystopian Street Battle, Episode 1, Kettling. As always, huge thanks to all of my patrons, especially my Tier 3 subs, Rewana Paroa, Cap, and Niraj Vagama. Thanks.